Now, you probably had those in the Northeast as well. When
Today, yeah. Yep. If nobody says anything, let it go through. We should after like we do, it's going through, let it go. Yep. Just let it go.
We have one day of sunny spring.
Sounds like frozen.
Three and 15 years.
yeah. Hey, Rose.
Our initial vote, I'm not sure we get so I have not been here.
Good morning. Good morning. We'll come to order. Thank you for everybody's understanding and patience. First item on there, introductions, and we'll establish a quorum.
Dennis Heisey, El Paso County Commissioner.
Rob McDonald, PPACG.
Mark Waller, El Paso County Commissioner.
Karen Rose, CDOT Region 2 Director. Robin Study, Tree Royal Forest Police.
Mark Wallaby, 8 years later, still.
Poor guy.
Roger Scott, Colorado Transportation Commissioner.
Ken Olson, Air Force Academy.
Rod Chisholm, Fort Carson.
Ella Collins, Colorado Springs City Council. Nicole Nicoletta, Mayor, Manatee Springs.
Turner Smith, Trustee, Town of Raymond.
Sharon Thompson, Fountain City Council.
Sally Clark, El Paso County Commissioner and Chair.
Tyler Stevens, Green Mountain Falls.
Jill Gabler, Colorado Springs City Council.
And Norm Steen, Teller County Commissioner.
Andy Pico, Colorado Springs City Council, and your esteemed chair for today. Mr. Scott, welcome to, congratulations and welcome. Glad to see you here. Glad to
We're
see
happy to have a Transportation Commissioner.
And condolences. Okay, we have agenda approval. Any changes to the agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, first item, public comments. Topics not on the current agenda. Do we have any comments? Yes, come on up, Mr. Tully.
Good morning. Thank you. Brian Vituli, City of Colorado Springs, Mountain Metro Transit. I just wanted to take a quick moment to announce that last month at the Colorado Association of Transit Agencies Fall Conference, we received the Large Community Transit Agency of the Year Award. So, thank you. So there are around 60 agencies throughout the state. 13 are in the large category, of which we are. And that's serving populations of 15,000 folks and higher. So we're very proud of this. We've done a lot of work over the last 6 years. We've increased overall productivity of our system, on-time performance, added routes, added weekend and evening service. We still have a lot of work to do, but we're very happy with the work we've done and what we see going forward. So just wanted to let you all know. Large Community Transit Agency of the Year. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. That's outstanding. Ms. Deborah?
Deborah Stout-Meininger, community advocate, citizen scientist. I come with some concerns about the water contamination issues and the update meetings that are happening about them. I did find out about a week ago that there are monthly update meetings that go on about it with the water departments, and they say the military and the state Board of Health is there, at these meetings, and there's supposed to be one today on the 12th. What I did find out was none of our city council in Fountain knew about it when I brought it up at the meeting last night. And the public's not allowed, not even to come in and view like you do with the working session. It's not open to the public to even hear. It's not recorded. This is not the way that things are done today. The water contamination is a very urgent, important issue to the public and to our city officials. And I have to say that I'm very, very unhappy that this kind of meeting is held that way. These monthly updates, I'm told by our utility department, I went to a citizens class, and they were talking about it, that they had it. The public's not allowed to be there. It's not recorded. So there's no documentation that the public can access about this. That's not the way this is supposed to be. And I just want to say that anybody here who's involved with this needs to change that attitude about it. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other comments? Rob, water quality is one of the issues, or one of the areas that comes under our thing, so perhaps on a future meeting, we can get kind of a brief update to the board of the water quality issues
Sure.
For the regional.
About the region. Yep.
Yep.
Pete's here, so he heard it firsthand.
All right, awesome. Okay, moving on, public comments on the Title VI and Limited English Proficiency Plans and the PPACG Public Participation Plan for Transportation Planning. This is something which is relief for public comment, so looking out if any public comment on this particular plan. Seeing none. Consent items. Items to be acted upon as a whole. Anyone want to pull anything or ask any questions on the consent items?
Seeing none, move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Rocketing on through the agenda, we have the draft budget.
Casey's got that one. The first budget.
Welcome, this is your first budget, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Good morning, Casey Partridge, PPACG Finance Manager. I'm presenting this for discussion and direction. This is our budget, our proposed PPACG 2017 draft. We're presenting a balanced budget for 2017 for your discussion. There are two attachments. The first attachment is information and detail on some of our highlighted areas. The second is the proposed budget for 2017. Some of the noteworthy aspects include we are seeing a decrease in federal, state, and foundation grant funding by about $952,000. The majority of that is the Colorado Health Foundation grant that we had for a number of years that has dropped off. That's actually a drop of about $666,000 for us for next year. That ties directly into contract expense. There's also a decrease in some of our pass-through money that we're giving of about $367,000 from last year, from 2016 to 2017 to some of our providers. We have also had a reallocation of some of our staff positions, and we're asking for an increase in FTEs from 38 to 38.15, which is about an increase of about 6 hours per week. We have budgeted a total wage package increase of $182,000, which includes an anticipated 20% increase in health insurance, and budgeting all positions within the new wage range that was established by the salary survey. This gets everybody within those new wage ranges. We are also, member dues will remain the same as 2016 at $458,000. Last month, we presented the dues for all of the association entities. There is some reallocation due to current property assessed values. We've also included, per the request of the board, $30,000 for a strategic plan for PPACG that was discussed last month, and as well as the $10,000 for the Colorado Springs Regional Business Alliance. The staff recommends that the Board of Directors discuss and direct staff as to any changes they wish to be brought forward to the November board meeting.
All right, Trustee Smith?
Do we have any results from the RFP for the strategic plan for the PPACG?
Hasn't been issued yet.
Okay,
It'll probably be issued this month.
because I'm seeing 30,000 in there, and I'm just wondering, A, is that enough? And two, I don't know how it works here with the budget. I can tell you, the town of Rama, if we add something into the budget, something else gets cut. And I'm wondering what's going to get cut.
Right now, we have a balanced budget. We can afford what Casey outlined. So
Okay.
it's
So
not- it's not a give and
without
take.
cuts to any departments from the previous year?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a couple questions. I'm not sure if it's Casey or probably Rob. In regard to the Colorado Health Foundation, can you just go into that more? I don't really understand what changed.
Yeah, I'll start, and Joe Urban can wander up if there's more detail. Basically, that was a grant we had for a couple of years. Really, we're passing the money through to the other area agencies on aging throughout the state. I think it was around $44,000 per area agency on aging. So we got that grant to us. We were more the fiscal agent, and so that grant just ran out. It was a 2-year grant. And so
And there's no opportunity to receive it again? Or?
Rob kind of hit the nail on the head in that it was an implementation grant for something that's evolving into the No Wrong Door program. I think I've alluded to the No Wrong Door program, which HICPUF is set to imminently release the RFP for. They've been imminently releasing that since about last December, I think. So as soon as that comes out, that will replace what this funding was for. This was basically a startup grant.
Okay, so we have implemented No Wrong Door, and
We have not implemented No Wrong Door. We have used some of those funds to develop pilot programs for the No Wrong Door. HICPUF has yet to release that call for RFPs. So as soon as that happens, we will have it all ready. We were the fiscal agent is the key component for about 8 entities.
okay. And then one other question. It talks about the call center, the change in the call center. Decrease of revenue for $95,000, primarily decrease in the joint call center project. Can someone explain that?
You want me to go ahead?
go ahead, Joe. Keep going.
We did not seek those funds because the call center is moving to Mountain Metro.
Right.
So they would be the fiscal, or they have been the fiscal agent and awarded to us, and they will have sole control of that as of January 1.
Sole control, so there will be no involvement with PPACG with the call center at that point?
We would obviously offer our advice to them, but we would not be the fiscal, we would not have the fiscal oversight at that point.
Okay, great, thanks.
Mr. Smith?
Yes. This is a follow-up question for Rob.
Yep.
When will you have the results from that RFP on that strategic plan?
We'll probably give them 3 or 4 weeks to respond.
So that will be prior to finalizing the budget?
Be real close. Implementation probably won't start till January. When you approve the budget, November or December, then we can expend those dollars starting January 1st. So 'cause right now, the money's not in this year's budget, so hard to start. But we can get the RFP done and back and forth, get the contract all nailed down so they can start and do the process starting January 1st. So RFP should be back maybe about the time the board approves the budget. But if you don't approve it till December, then you're all set. So we just don't have that yet.
My concern is if the price tag comes back in above the 30,000, and your budget is already pretty much finalized, then what will get cut?
We'll have to look in the budget, see what we can do. Yeah, I can't speculate what would be cut now. You haven't approved the budget yet.
Well, and this item about the strategic plan is on our agenda later, I mean, there are a lot of options, ways we could go. There is a kind of a scope written into the agenda item. We could modify the scope. I think Rob said last month that the threshold for an RFP is $25,000. We could even today just say spend up to $25,000 and give it to the group who already wrote the initial scope. I mean, we have different options and ways to go to accomplish this task because it's important.
I absolutely agree that we need to have a strategic plan. I'm in favor of the plan, but just like Rama, everything we do out there is essential, and everything we do here is essential. So I just don't want to cut out something that's essential here. And
I appreciate that.
thank you.
Councilor Tom?
Last month, you voted to accept the new personnel payment. I don't know what it's called. I don't remember. The salary.
The revised personnel guidelines you changed,
Right.
which got rid of the COLA and also got rid of the whole step thing.
So that is included in this budget, not
Yeah.
a COLA. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. No COLA. We just have a wage package, and we put, right now, all the current staff salaries are just in those new ranges.
Right.
that
I just want to
Mountain
make
State-
sure we're not accidentally doing both.
No.
Okay.
Mr. Kennedy?
So going back to that question, by creating the new program, I'm assuming there were some folks at the top end, some folks needed to be brought up. And with no COLA, there are people that will not be receiving an increase. Is that the way that's going to work?
Nope. I think, as Casey has laid it out, we have the wage package will allow people to compete for, I think it's about a 2.1% pool of money.
Okay.
So based on their evaluation, they can earn, a little like the county and the city, there's a pool of money people can earn by having a good evaluation. So it's not across the board. So some could get, if it's 2.1%, some could get 0 to 2, and some could maybe get a little bit further, which does mean that the folks that were stuck at the former midpoint,
Right.
they have an opportunity to go up a little bit. But
Okay.
yeah, we did not budget to the midpoint of that new range, or the middle, the second quartile, I think is the new term,
To borrow a comment, it's the UNCOLA.
the Angola.
Commissioner Clark?
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. One, there's a ballot initiative. We'll, thank goodness, figure this out by the time we get to November. Please let it be over soon. But I just, the county did we did a analysis of the proposal Amendment 69, and I just think we need to be aware that there could be some financial implications. Commissioners, correct me if I'm wrong, it was at $25 million over the first 3 years if Amendment 69 were to pass. I don't know if we've done any analysis here, but it could have an impact on our budget, so we do need to be aware of that. I don't know if we have any minimum wage employees, perhaps not. That might be something else that we might need to work into that. But that was my question, Rob. Have you done any analysis to see what the impact of Amendment 69 might be on our budget with the single payer with regard to health care?
We haven't. We're going to meet next week with our healthcare consultant. They go out and shop the market for us, anywhere from joining a local government to the Business Alliance or to the health exchange at the state. And we go to the private sector as well. So they go shop it, and that's one of the questions we'll ask for. What's going to happen in the industry? Because we start and ask them, based on what they know now, what's our good plug number, that 20% you see in the budget? Is that reasonable? Are they seeing in the market around up to 20%, or do they see it less? So we'll know more before the November board meeting. That'd be a first opportunity.
I want us to keep an eye on it, just because I know, and frankly, regardless of what the industry does, it's still going to impact us regardless. So I think, you have to pay to play no matter whether you play or not. And I think that's one of the major concerns that I have. especially on our government agencies, as to what that impact might be. Obviously, we can't do much about it right now except be prepared, and we should get some figures as to how that would impact us. My second question is, and you said the RFP on the strategic plan would probably be, I'd like to get a date from you as to when that RFP will be released and when we're expecting some responses back. So I don't know if you have that today, but I think it would be important for the board to know, because I think that that strategic plan going forward is going to be critical for the future of the board.
Sure. Most likely by the end of the month. I wanted to see if there's any comments on the scope before we released it. So comments in your agenda item later. Once that's buttoned down, we'll issue the RFP. It'll be by the end of the month.
Yes, Ms. Gabbard?
Sorry. I noticed down at the bottom of the programs it has an in-kind component of $123,000 where there's none this year. Can I just get an explanation on that? Because I don't see any explanation here.
Casey's done a ton on the in-kind.
In-kind is some of our studies that we're doing for the transportation department, that the PPRTA has purchased some items that we can use on the other side of the aisle, on the PPACG aisle. So we're using those to match in-kind instead of using dues.
What kind of items?
Well, I
Craig?
think most, well, yeah, Craig can come up too, but things we use for our transportation planning program. So if Colorado Springs does traffic counts, and we use traffic counts for our travel demand model to calibrate it, to verify it, we can take the value of that against our federal dollars.
I see.
So it's about an 80-20% match federal to local.
Okay.
Also, our joint land use study is doing some of the same kind of thing.
Components that would assist us.
Yeah, and also the time of volunteers that are on the committees can be
Great.
used for the joint land use study.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to note that that number is negotiated with CDOT for their grant. They have to verify that the in-kind is of value. So some of the CDOT folks are here today, and that's usually a couple-month process to validate what the in-kind will be next year. It's an estimate, and again, like most budgets, you do your best and see what comes in, but we think we'll be pretty close to that number.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? On Amendment 69, I asked for some impact for utilities and for the city, and I know that was unpleasant reading when I got that. We'll just see how it comes. But I agree. It will be a significant
Did
impact.
you take a formal position on it?
The city is
Mr.
not
Chair?
yet, no.
Yeah, we
No.
did.
No, I know you did. I looked at that real close, and I was debating whether, but I've been fishing for some of the impact numbers, and I really don't have them all yet. But the initial look, it would be unpleasant to the
Budget.
to the budgets of both utilities and the city. Any other questions, comments? Okay, so this is discussion and direction. Any directions other than already mentioned? Oh, okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Revised PPACG travel regulations.
That's me again.
Oh,
Hi. This was brought to the board at the last meeting. There was some discussion, and it was suggested that we add something about those travelers that may want to be bumped off a flight, voluntarily give up their seat on an overbooked flight. So we have added a section on that on page 4 to say that that's, they may keep, personnel may keep payments or free airline tickets received from a carrier for voluntarily giving up a seat on an overbooked flight, so long as the resulting delay in taking a later flight does not interfere with the performance of duty or increase the cost of the PPACG. Any additional travel expenses incurred are not the responsibility of PPACG. So we've added that section in, and we've made we discussed the other changes, which is some change in the name of forms, requiring detailed receipts, adding a website link for the USGSA per diem rates, and then we added the policy on giving up a seat on an airline. So we're asking, right now, we're asking for the board to approve the changes, the travel regulation changes.
Motion and second. Do we have any comment, discussions, questions? Seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Next one is Transportation Improvement Program Amendment Number 3.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kevin Reyes. I'm a transportation planner here with PPACG. Today I'm going to be going over Amendment Number 3 for the fiscal year 2017-2022 Transportation Improvement Program. And this amendment comes in 3 different parts, and all of them are coming to us from the Colorado Department of Transportation. So the first part in the memo is Part A. And Part A says that CDOT Region 2 was recently awarded Highway Safety Improvement Program funding for a safety project on State Highway 83 and County Road 404. CDOT hopes to build a roundabout and fix the roadway grade for sight distance at this intersection. They hope to use $150,000 for design in fiscal year 2017 and $1.6 million for construction in fiscal year 2018. So that's Part 1 of for Amendment Number 3. Part B says that CDOT Region 2 was informed by the Division of Transit and Rail that the Woodman Park and Ride location in the future will no longer be adequate for the demand that it will be receiving. According to CDOT, the parking lot there will be reaching full capacity, and they anticipate adding additional bus staying service to this park and ride. So that's only going to increase the congestion. So they have asked the DTR has allocated $3 million of SB 228 funds to open up a right-of-way phase to look for a new park and ride location for the Woodman Park and Ride. And Part C in the memo says that CDOT Region 1 is returning $500,000 of regional priority funds that it no longer needs from a PEL study to CDOT Region 2. And the funds are going to be, they hope to apply these funds to 2 projects on the US 24 corridor. So the first project that they want to fund actually comes in 2 different parts. It's at US 24 and 31st Street and US 24 and 21st Street. At 31st Street, they want to do some minor widening of the eastbound auxiliary lane. And at 21st Street, they want to add left turn storage capacity on the westbound 24. So that's the first part of this funding. And for that part, they're going to be using $400,000 of the RPP funds for those 2 intersections. The second part of this RPP funds is going towards the Rainbow Falls Bridge. They hope to put $100,000 towards aesthetic enhancements on this bridge. Yeah, that's everything for Amendment Number 3. Does anyone have any questions over those?
Any questions? Yes.
Is it more cost effective to find a new spot for that parking rather than this deck? A lot that's there, and I ask that with all sincerity, because always looking for the best way to figure out other parking. So is it just a better route to find a new spot versus deck that we already have?
It's very expensive to build a parking structure, so like you say, deck. So yes, it would be much cheaper to find another facility plus the maintenance. There has been a study going on to look at different properties in the area and figure out which one is the best to utilize. And so we're in negotiations for buying different, or at least one property and see how it goes, and then we have some other options to look at for that. Again, it's the Division of Transit and Rail that's been leading it, but we've been working with city staff and transit group too to figure out what's the best spot for that and coordinate on it. So like you say, that there could be, so bus staying only runs Monday through Friday right now. So on the weekends, the city or Manitou can use it for tourist parking and then utilize some of their vans to pick up people and bring them into the more crowded areas like the incline or things like that. So those have been part of the discussion items.
Thanks, Mayor. Any other questions, comments?
What is the ridership on Bustang?
Ridership on Bustang? I don't.
I can look that up and provide it. I do know we had a transit update about 3 or 4 months ago, and you get 6 buses in the morning that go up and then 6 buses that come back. We're about 25% occupancy on the buses. However, we have the most ridership of the 3 routes for Bustang. So Greeley, or not Greeley, but Fort Collins has 5 buses that run in the morning, and they have a little higher percentage of their buses full, but they have less ridership. And then we have a route from Glenwood Springs to Denver, and it's about 90% capacity. They're adding another bus to run, and they run 7 days a week. And they're adding another bus, I think, to run from Vail to Denver.
But the Glenwood Spring ridership doesn't affect the Colorado Springs to Denver ridership. I'm just
No.
curious about the Denver to Colorado.
Okay.
So it's only running at 25% capacity, and we're already expanding?
We're not expanding. We're expanding that park and ride facility. So that facility gets too crowded for the vehicles. And other people use it, so it's not just for Bustang, and we can't restrict just the Bustang use. And so we need to find a bigger facility. Plus, this is July was year 1 in, using Bustang. So our hope is it goes up and up and up. And, we just did Bustang to ride to the Denver Broncos, as a facility, and it sold out. And I don't know if that was 1 buses or 5, but I do know it sold out. So we are looking at expanding Bustang down to Pueblo, and we are looking at ridership growing. So as I-5 gets more congestion, we would assume more people would use Bustang. So yeah, right now the percent occupancy on the bus is relatively low. We're thinking that's going to go up. And then the parking at Woodman is in particular. So for example, Monument has plenty of parking, so that facility's fine. So
if you do to Pueblo, are you going to use the Fountain one again? Because it's a pretty underused parking.
I'll ask DTR. They are looking at the study of that, of extending to Pueblo. The problem, so they are looking at also stopping at Castle Rock, but the more stops you add, the less useful it becomes in terms of an express route for commuters to Denver, which is kind of the purpose of it. So as it expands to Pueblo, yes, we might look at Fountain if there's people who are going to use it to go from Pueblo to Fountain. But again, or maybe Fountain to Denver, depending on, what they find the ridership will be used as. What percentage of riders they would have and what the value would be to adding that stop. But I'll see where they're at on that study and if Fountain's being considered in that. A lot of times, too, it's how convenient it is to get off the interstate, how fast, and get back on.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
I just have
Commissioner Clark?
one comment of how one item is listed under C, the Rainbow Falls Bridge Aesthetic Enhancement Project. I want to assure the board that this is basically for graffiti and vandalism deterrent. So while it sounds like aesthetic, it is somewhat going to be aesthetic, but it also will deter the graffiti problem that I think all of you are pretty well aware of that we've experienced up in the Rainbow Falls area. So I just wanted to make sure that it was noted properly that it's really a vandalism and graffiti deterrent, not just an aesthetic enhancement. Thank you.
I appreciate the clarification. Thank you, sir.
Not that I don't love aesthetics and aesthetic treatments.
Concerned with limiting artistic expression?
That's right. I wouldn't call it artistry.
Yeah.
We want it to be a family-friendly place for people to go, and it's not right now, so appreciate that. So if there's no further, Mr. Chairman, I would be happy to make a motion to approve.
I think one question right next door.
Curious if you could tell really quickly why TAC only recommended approval of Part A and B, and they didn't approve C.
Yeah, that's a good question. When we brought this to TAC, I was unaware that Part C was actually part of this amendment, and it was walked on at the meeting. And so we were unable to get a recommendation on that item since it was just walked on at that time.
So concerns on their part?
No, they just didn't know what it was.
So,
I think we'll have
my question
clarification on
is
this.
that I would want to make sure that we approve C at the same time if that was not on the recommendation.
TAC Chair.
Yes. Jennifer Irvin, El Paso County Engineer, but also the TAC Chair. It was a walk-on item. We didn't feel like we had enough information at the time to make a recommendation, but we did recommend that it go on to the board for a vote because we felt, that there's no reason why it shouldn't. So, no objection, though.
Okay, thank you. Okay. One comment is great to see Region 1 sending Region 2 money. Just awesome.
It's a good start.
It's a good start. That's where you go.
Just another
Keep it
observation. The 228 money, I think it's 110 million, I think, in the 228 money for 2017, I think. 10% of it for transit, so we're getting 3 million out of the 10. So 1/3 of transit money for the state is coming to a single project in a region. So good news for item B. That's for item B.
Okay. Commissioner Clark?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would move approval of Amendment 3, including all A, B, and C items.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any other further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And 6D, designation of critical urban freight corridors.
Good morning. Ken Prather, PPACG Transportation Planner. In August, I introduced you to two related topics. One was the National Highway Freight Program, which would bring about $15 million a year of new funds to Colorado for freight-related projects on freight corridors. And the other was the designation of critical urban and critical rural freight corridors by PPACG, DRCOG, and CDOT. The funds in 2016 and 2017 can be used immediately if a project is programmed in a TIP or STIP for those years. Beginning in 2018, projects must also be included in the state freight plan. CDOT has begun the process of revising its plan to add projects. It currently has no freight projects identified in it, and also developed a methodology for selecting those projects to be added to the plan. So CDOT is proposing this time that the freight corridors, the critical freight corridors, be designated only if they have a project that's programmed currently in the TIP or STIP for 2016 and 2017. Of the projects identified in our region that we think would be eligible and could certainly use additional funds, only the Charter Oak Ranch Road project is currently in the TIP for the year 2017. So it's being proposed to you, and the request is to you to, Charter Oak Ranch Road half of it is in our urbanized area, so PPACG is responsible for designating that half. The other half is outside of our urbanized area, so CDOT is responsible for designating it. So half is urban and half is rural. The motion before you is to designate the half that's inside of our urbanized area as a critical urban freight corridor, and to recommend to CDOT that it designate the other half as a critical rural freight corridor. This will make the road eligible for these funds. It won't guarantee any funds. It will just make them eligible to be in the competitive process that CDOT will conduct to award the funds in 2016 and 17.
Okay.
And it is a designation. There is a draft letter in your memo, so we'd also authorize the chair to sign that designation letter. And the designations can be revised, so we can add, and they can be done at any time, so we can add roads in the future at any time. But there is a cap of 80.35 miles within the entire state, so there has to be coordination between CDOT, DRCOG, and us to which roads will ultimately be designated and not exceed that cap. So this will be coming back to us over the next year.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah.
Mr. Steen?
Question, Jeff. Has there been discussion to see that how the 80 miles of non-interstate highways divide up between the TPRs and the regions? I've asked this question at staff a number of times and nobody can give me a clear answer. How do we, who tells us what miles we get in the NPO?
That has not been determined yet. I think everybody has ducked that bullet by saying, let's concentrate only on these first 2 years, because to answer your question, I think will partly be determined as they develop the methodology for selecting projects to add to the plan. We don't even have the criteria identified yet, or what that process will be. So I think that your question will be addressed in the coming year. It has to be, because
There's some question where you designate the corridor and then define projects, or have projects and therefore you group them and define the corridor. It's kind of a chicken and egg argument.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to get after that question. I don't know, Karen, if you want to.
Well, I'll try. So part of this is the $15 million that comes around every year for freight. So that's not very much. So if you just said we got a fifth of that, that'd be $3 million a year. And the federal law says that, that we can designate any corridor for any length. And so what we're kind of saying is, all right, let's just say we have a project for a bridge widening, and we have $2 million of RPP, but it costs $2.5 million. We would put that quarter mile on the freight corridor and say, can we have $500,000 of freight money to widen this bridge? So that's kind of the rationale right now going around from our perspective, but like you mentioned, there's no clear guidance as to how will that $15 million a year be designated. So we're just trying to pick the smallest amount of corridors that will give us the biggest bang for the buck that we think could have money associated with it. So.
Well, you know, one of the nuances is that these freight corridors can change.
Yes, so that's good.
One area, and then the next year after the project's done, you move the critical corridor to another piece of geography.
Yep.
So I'd love to see the strategy is how do you, when do you move, how do you move them, and what's the criteria for?
I think there's to me there's two sides of the coin. If there's a benefit to having a strategy, but there's a benefit to being as flexible as possible for different opportunities. So again,
It would just best plan. I mean,
because
you
you
don't know where you're going in order to plan.
right. So you can have a plan, but then if something, as you know, things change and funding changes, and then you want to make sure to be flexible enough in that plan that you could change the changing priorities or the changing funding opportunities. So I think that's what they're struggling with is, yeah, we would like a plan, we'd like some data, we'd like some analysis, but we also want some flexibility in how that applies so that we can be ready for any project or opportunity that comes along.
We're almost a year into the fast. I mean, it passed last December, I think, so, right? Fast Act?
Mm-hmm.
And this is a key proponent of fast, so.
I think it's refreshing that we can flow with what projects need to happen, right? Don't exceed that 80 miles perhaps, but, you know, I agree. I think it's, as policymakers, we tend to need plan and strategy, blah, blah, but it's kind of nice that something comes up, all of a sudden we can take care of this that wasn't able to be funded.
The government, we say, well, it's only 15 million. It's not a lot of money.
15.
Really?
After a while, it adds up, right?
Yeah.
Councilor Gabler?
Question about the location. So, what is it again? Where is Charter Oaks Road?
That's where I live, Carson.
So, and we consider that's an urban area. I mean, I've never heard of it, but all these other roads seem very urban. So I'm wondering, I mean, you mentioned it was the only one we could choose?
It's within the census-designated urbanized area.
Okay.
It's not what you would consider, it's on the west side of Fountain, on the west of I-25.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think the key is that it's going to match up, and it's a freight corridor, not necessarily.
Well, there's 4 other freight corridors listed, so I mean, did you say we couldn't choose any of those? I'm trying to understand why we chose this one over any of the other ones.
This is south end of Fountain. This is 85. Charter Oak Ranch Road comes across here and comes out,
Okay.
and then goes west here to Gate 19 at Fort Carson.
But actually, 85 is also 25.
85, yeah, I get that. So again, why were the other ones not considered?
They have no funding program for them in 2016 or 2017.
I see.
So what we want to do
think
now
this
is
the
just
highest-
designate this so that it's eligible to compete for the funds in 2016 and 2017. None of the others are eligible until 2018 and beyond.
Okay, got it.
And Jennifer, standing behind you for clarification or addition or whatever.
Yeah, just to provide some clarification, just so that Charter Oak Ranch Road is a road that received funding through the Tiger Grant for a planning grant. So that road, and that's a road that we actually, through PPACG, did the original corridor study on. And based upon that corridor study, the stakeholder group, including PPACG, El Paso County, the City of Fountain, we had applied for a Tiger Grant for planning. So that project is actually under design. This road is an important corridor because it provides secondary access to Gate 19. Fort Carson is doing a lot of improvements in that area. In fact, they've improved their access to that road on their base, and so what's missing is the access to the Gate 19. It's an old ranch road that was essentially paved by some of those pits, gravel pits that are in that location, so it doesn't meet any kind of standards and can never handle any kind of traffic for Fort Carson. So from a perspective for supporting Fort Carson, that's a high priority. We have received, the cost estimate for that project is right around $11 million. We've received about $5.5 million of that through PPACG for the construction phase, and we're looking for other funds, either through DAR, through this program, to kind of make that gap, and that gap's about $6.3 million. So part of the reason why that was suggested by TAC is that it's getting ready. We're about to be shovel-ready, hopefully, as we go through the design. We should have the 30% design plans this month, and then go into final design and start property acquisition. And so because of its readiness, the other thing is that it's half in the urban and half in the rural, so the TAC actually made the suggestion to designate the whole corridor, the whole 1.2 miles, based upon the input from CDOT, who was at our meeting, that said that PPACG could designate both in the urban and rural. So that was the TAC recommendation, is to designate the entire corridor so that we are eligible for funding for the entire corridor.
I really appreciate that explanation.
Sure.
Thank you, Jennifer. That's all I needed.
Defense access road money, I mean, that's a really long, tough process to get that. Defense access road. Can our installations give us any help, or can we?
We've been working with the installations, and it's actually number one on their list, but that goes through actually a federal process, and I know Commissioner Clark was actually advocating for that at D.C. here in the last couple weeks. We're going to be looking at all kinds of different sources, and I think this source puts us in a good position. So, like any project here in this region, I think we cobble together the money, from all different sources, and we get it done. So that's what we're trying to do. And there's also a federal lands access program that we could apply to the next time that comes around. There's additional money if we, at some point through PPACG, so we're looking at all. But this corridor in particular, because it's under design and is about to be what I would call shovel-ready, it makes sense at this time until, those future years to probably designate other corridors, which if you look at your packet, TAC actually put together a whole list of projects that we think would be great projects. So, thank you.
You're great.
Just a quick comment from Fort Carson's perspective. We've been supportive of the DAR, Defense Access Road, as a federal component to trying to get funds to improve that corridor. And it goes to our Gate 19, which actually started more of a construction gate to come on in for all the buildup that has occurred around Butts Army Airfield, and then putting 2 brigades out there, Combat Aviation Brigade and a 4th brigade as well. So there's been a lot of construction, but then as our soldier population, some of the things started to see the gate, we've really had on a long-term plan to develop that into Gate 19 for general access. So what we have been doing is we've established the temporary access control point with all the right ways of checking folks in and out through their IDs and whatever. And we've been slowly paving the piece that's on Fort Carson through adding it on to continuous pieces of projects to get that paved. And I think it gets used a lot right now by a lot of soldiers that live in the Fountain and surrounding areas, particularly in the good winter months, and until we get it in the summer months, and then it will get used in the winter months once we complete the paving for the whole road. But it's access directly into to almost a separate cantonment area that we've built over the last 7 years at Fort Carson.
And additionally, I'd just weigh in that this is also a high priority for the impact group and our lobbyists in Washington that we are a member of as PPACG, so we're getting work done on that front as well to try to shepherd through those various funds federally as well. So we have boots on the ground there.
Commissioner Clark?
Well, and just to let you know, too, we had written up a quick synopsis that I'd be happy to pass on to the PPACG board and could be forwarded to the board members on this particular. Commissioner Heisey's been working on this for quite a few years, and I wanted to just mention as well that, and I think as Councilmember Thompson mentioned, it will not alleviate, but it will certainly lessen the traffic that's currently on Mesa Ridge Parkway, and the South Academy as it relates to traffic going in and out of Fort Carson. So it will have a positive impact on other places where we're seeing a lot of congestion. So it is important, and just, I mean, I think if it's on the list, that's actually helpful for us to advocate more at the federal level, which we did when we were in D.C. just a few weeks ago.
Just to add that Fort Carson's been a great partner. We've been talking about this project since at least 2008 or even before, so.
I move approval.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussions, questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
A thoroughly discussed half-mile. Okay, that concludes the action items. Moving on to reports, CDOT monthly update.
Good morning. We've got a relationship going on. I'm Dave Watt, a CDOT Region 2 resident engineer working the I-25 Cimarron project, and we've been doing these monthly updates now for about a year. I'm pleased to announce that the projects are about at the halfway point, and we've got a handout that's going around for your reading pleasure, and I really do think it's timely and interesting reading. It talks about some of the next critical phases coming up, and lets us put a face to the individual. One of the individuals that's working on maintenance of traffic, and that's certainly a topic that we've been discussing quite a bit. We have some upcoming traffic switches that we're going to discuss, and we also have a piece on some bridge demolition, and that's another key step as we leave what we've been referring to as Phase 1, which has been primarily the construction of the southbound direction of I-25, as well as some of the bridge structures you see on either side of the interstate. A particular interest, for instance, is the Cimarron Bridge. There was a deck pour completed about an hour ago. It started about 6 o'clock, and they just completed the deck pour for about two-thirds of the Cimarron Bridge, like I say, about an hour ago. So the work is proceeding. Like the handout mentions, we have about the halfway point and some good discussions about who's working on the maintenance of traffic, some of the steps and the planning that they go through as you look at these traffic switches. And that kind of segues into a traffic switch that we're looking at as we leave Phase 1 and begin to put traffic onto the southbound travel lanes that we're looking at doing that yet this month. So in the month of October, we'll be looking at a traffic switch. It's going to be over a weekend where we're going to move traffic, do some paving on the transitions between where cars are traveling today in the northbound direction and moving them over to the southbound travel lanes. There's going to be a little bit of inconvenience that goes along with that. We will be restricting I-25 northbound down to 2 lanes through the day, so that will be a little bit congested on that weekend this October, that we do this traffic switch on. But that's far better than trying to detour traffic through the area, the downtown community, and we're able to do some work during the night. There's going to be some northbound closures of I-25 on the night, but that will allow us to keep traffic moving there through the day over the weekend, and there'll be a northbound on-ramp closure during that weekend as well. And so that's either going to be the 21st to the 28th, kind of weather dependent, and here the next few days completing some of those critical next steps towards that traffic switch. So this kind of begins the end of what I'll call phase 1, and there's some documentation, there's some bullet points on the work that we've done in phase 1 to date. Recall we started with a phase 2 that started back in April of 2015 with design that was going from the design build contractor with Kramer and TSH, utility relocations, and the embankment. Recall we had the embankment, particularly the northwest corner of the site, that came up kind of over many evenings. But that's set the stage for what's going to be the southbound travel. We did a lot of work off-site before we were impacting traffic. We began phase 1 this past spring. So we've been detouring traffic through and around, keeping 3 lanes open during the day, and has some intermittent closures, a lot of night work, and right now we're preparing for this traffic switch. And so again, that's looking like weather permitting, and some of these next steps yet this week that there'll be a traffic switch the weekend of October 21st or October 28th. It's going to happen in October, and it's not going to be this weekend. So we're winding down to phase 1 and going into phase 2. Part of phase 2, if there's folks that are very interested in or tied to the current bridge structure over US 24 and Fountain Creek, it's about going to go. Whoops.
That usually happens when someone's cell phone is near the mic, so.
Put that down this way. But the next step is going there after the traffic switch. Once we move traffic off the existing I-25 bridge, the bridge is going to need to be coming down so that we can build the northbound I-25 improvements. That is going to involve a weekend where US 24 underneath the existing bridge is going to have to be closed to allow this to safely come down. We very briefly looked at whether or not this could be done in steps to where do this work at night over our different steps. But with a 60, 70-year-old structure, it's not going to be safe to try to demolish that bridge and keep traffic going in underneath it. So we're looking at a US 24 closure between I-25 and 8th Street for an early weekend in November. We've had a lot of coordination on both these steps between the project team, Colorado Springs Traffic, utilities, our own region traffic engineers, and getting the word out to our stakeholders as well. This bridge demolition is a well-planned out weekend, probably about, it's actually 72 hours worth of an hour-by-hour detailed plan of how the bridge is going to come down safely and make sure we get off the highway and get the bridge down before it opens back up to traffic on Monday morning. Very early Monday morning, by the way. But it's a 72-hour plan, and hopefully it's the CDOT and the Kramer team do not take closing highways lightly. We want to minimize inconvenience. That's why I don't just like to hear myself talk, but the work we did with Phase 0, saying that work we could do the embankment work offline, and doing a lot of night work during Phase 1. There's going to be over 300 night shifts by the time this is all said and done. That's all tied towards trying to hit that third goal of minimizing inconvenience to the public. But these 2 weekends where there is going to be a little bit more impact is there's value good way to get from having a bridge over US 24 and getting to work on the new bridge without tearing that bridge down quickly. This isn't unheard of. If you recall, 6th Avenue up in Denver has had a couple weekend closures when they had to do that work about 2 years ago. We've done this on Fillmore Interchange, where you hit these critical steps, and this board and other media avenues are our best way of getting that message out of the good news is work is progressing. The bad news is we're going to have a little bit of inconvenience on a couple weekends, but we think we can manage this safely and effectively and keep the project moving and on schedule. Yes, sir.
Trustee Smith?
Are you happy with your safety record on this project? I haven't heard anything, so I'm just a question that comes to mind, having been in the workforce for a long time.
The quick answer is yes, we are. That's something that the team talks about weekly. Weekly safety meetings. If you're interested, a weekly 7:30 on Friday mornings. They have the safety officer that comes in and talks. I also know they don't. Resident engineers don't rate above it. I was out one night as we were setting bridge girders, staying safely out of the way, but it was pointed out to me that I didn't have my safety glasses. So a pair was provided for me. And Karen, that was no extra charge. That's not it used to show up on the bill, but yes, and we've been we're happy with the way the MOT has been set up and maintained. We have a very strong maintenance of traffic team from the Kramer team. They coordinate very well with Region Traffic and Colorado Springs Traffic Operations Center. A lot of the right discussions are happening, and when you read that newsletter, I hope that's what becomes apparent, that this stuff is not done in a vacuum. These issues are talked about and discussed at a weekly basis, and we take safety very seriously, and a big part of that is the maintenance of traffic aspects with a lot of the night work, and having 120,000 cars a day going through your project is a challenge, and its safety is not taken lightly.
Commissioner Clark?
Just a question for Dave, and you said November, and just thinking about the Thanksgiving holiday, it's not going to be during the Thanksgiving holiday weekend, correct?
This is going to be ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday.
Okay. And I just want to say, I know that it's a terrible inconvenience, but it's also a safety issue, and we just need to get it done. I just want to make sure that it doesn't coincide with a really busy weekend in November. So I appreciate it. It's an incredible job that CDOT's doing. I've been watching it just about every day as I go on and off that particular interchange, no matter where I'm going. And I know I'm assuming that you'll be really thinking about, I'd like to know a little bit about the detours and the signage of how to get to the other locations if the bridge is coming down, because they'll need to be routed to Bijou, or they'll have to go down, I'm assuming, south to hit Nevada or Tejon to get back on the interstate and head that way.
That's a great reminder, Commissioner Clark. Part of your packet lays out the detour routes for each of those traffic switches, if you will. I mentioned November for the bridge demolition effort, and that it could coincide with the Veterans Day Parade. We've had multiple conversations with the president of the Veterans Day. We think we can manage that. Kathleen Krager and I sat down this morning with the president of the Veterans Day Parade, and Roger's a very interesting man and knows how to handle chaos. Those were his words, not mine. And we feel we've got a good plan to keep traffic on I-25 that's trying to go west on 24 away from the parade route. We'll have traffic control supervisors as well as police officers manning the key intersections to make sure that folks wanting to go west on the US 24 from the interstate can get around the project safely and avoid the parade route if that's the weekend that happens on.
And I'd just really like to offer to take a look at those. Just because I drive, I take cut through traffic all the time, so I kind of know which works best and which doesn't. So I'd really like the opportunity to talk to you about, how we're going to reroute folks off to I-25 that weekend and give them several different alternatives, perhaps, as to how to get back on the interstate.
And I want to be clear, northbound I-25 on the bridge demolition and southbound I-25, the main line travel will be open.
Okay.
It's the ramps that will not be able to open.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman?
I had sent a question to Rob, and I think it went to Karen, and I don't remember seeing an answer to, it seemed like I was getting questions from people who were coming down at night, and there weren't any lights in the area at all when you weren't working at night. It was very, very dark, especially on moons where the night was covered, or, wasn't any, and people were having trouble kind of even staying in their lanes. I don't remember, I know you initially were going to research it, but.
they were researching it. Did you find anything out?
Some of the traffic, some of the street lights are out. We are having as the workers are working at night, they do have lights on their work and are pretty visible. And some of the street lights along the interstate corridor, not only the I-25 Cimarron project, but others are out as well. And we're trying to work with Carl Springs Utilities to see when the lights can come back on. I don't know if they've burnt out the bulbs or what, but it wasn't anything that the project caused, and it's one we're trying to work with CSU Utilities to see if we can get the lights back on.
It seemed like it kind of happened about the time it started getting dark earlier, so, people became aware of it, so that was expressed to me by a couple people. It's not something I drive nightly, so.
You're having a problem with...
You can take care of that one, huh? You drive it every day.
You're having a problem with utilities getting the lights on?
No, we're not having a problem with utilities. This is something that's happened, and we're communicating with them, and they're going to be on the issue. But no, Carl Springs Utilities has not been a problem.
Okay.
In fact, they've been the opposite of that. They've been one of the outstanding partners with this project.
Okay, good to hear. Any other comments, questions? Great.
Thank you.
I'll make a comment on Powers. If Powers corridor has a lot of work going on that too as well, and it's encouraging to see the construction going on. But it's interesting to receive the complaints about so much construction. You never win.
They weren't complaining about the construction, they were just concerned that it was so dark.
No, and Powers is kind of strange.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's not another one I drive daily either.
Okay. Anything else from CDOT? Karen, you have any comments? Nope.
I don't have anything.
Stack?
We'll just take a minute to talk about two things. One is the increased focus on freight lanes. Ken talked a bit about the designation of critical freight areas around the state, but STAC's been focusing a lot on helping our freight industry actually function better in the state of Colorado. A couple primary focus areas of parking, truck parking. If you've ever driven down any interstate, you'll see many trucks parked on the off-ramps because there is no accessible parking and off-road. So there's an increased focus on finding areas for our freight carriers to park. We're talking about the semi-tractors, trailers, and so on. Also, bridge height. We have a number of bridges around the state that are below the 14.5 regulatory and even below 13.5 cab height. So we're getting bridge strikes, a couple of them, not very many. It's rare, but as you see now, truck trailers at 110 high cube trailers. You're seeing larger trucks on the roads. You're seeing higher incidence of that. So even our military folks are facing those. So increased focus on truck routes. And the third area is rest areas. You may know that there's a rest area between here and Denver that's been closed for a number of years. CDOT is now taking a comprehensive look as where should our rest areas be? What are the standards for maintenance, for upkeep? Maybe looking at some partnerships with public-private. There's a federal law that prohibits private ownership or management of truck stops. But we're looking at CDOT's looking at some creative areas, I think, to see how we can better position and maintain our truck stops, so our truck areas, both for freight trucks but also for traveling public. And then the second thing I want to talk about real briefly, it's kind of related to STAC, and that is the study that Colorado is now part of one of 3 states in the union behind Oregon and California. That's the Road Usage Charge Study, RUC. This is a spin-off of the VMT study, which is a long-term plan to replace funding through purchase of fuel.
Vehicle miles traveled.
VMT, vehicle miles.
Be able to write an acronym, but when
I
you're
know.
done with this.
Yeah, working on it. So moving from revenue from fuel purchase to revenue from miles driven. So with a large number of vehicles now who burn less and less fuel, we need to have a more sustainable model for long-term funding of roads at the state level. There's nothing being addressed at the federal level, but Colorado is now several months into a program to look at some technology, some processes for collecting miles traveled by the traveling public. The target group is vehicles weighing less than 10,000 pounds, so the F-350, I think, barely qualifies. Everything below that would qualify. So some concerns, for example, that how do you measure people in the rural areas who are traveling more than people who live in the cities? We have representation from a wide group of people. I'm actually not representing the STAC. I'm actually representing Colorado counties. So CCI appointed me as representing 64 counties to represent the county view on this. But a study has been underway, and there's a couple different versions of technology. I'll do the best I can to keep you updated. If you have any questions or things specifically you'd like me to raise concerning the Pikes Peak region, I'd be glad to carry that forward. And then one just last thing, the next meeting, October 28th, the STAC, 9 a.m., is our workshop. If you look at your agenda, the STAC agenda, you'll see that almost everything on there is informational, not advisory. Yet it's called the State Transportation Advisory Council. So we've been working as a STAC to become more advisory to CDOT, and beginning this month, we're working on ways to advise the Transportation Commission directly. That was required, directed by House Bill 1018, passed last year, directed STAC to directly advise the Transportation Commission in addition to advising CDOT. So the plan is that we, the MPOs, TPRs are on the state, through the STAC rep, would have more direct input into funding, long-term processes, the strategy behind maintaining our roads statewide. So look to become more engaged. And that places an onus on us to become more aware, more better prepared, because CDOT, they know their business. But we need to be prepared and equipped to provide good input to how state roads are done. So if you'd like to join in that discussion, this is a workshop between STAC, and I'm sorry, Mr. Scott has just left us, but I'm glad to see he's going to be here for the end, again, the 28th of October meeting, where we strategize on how STAC can better advise the commission directly. So, yes, sir.
Those people then report back and tell us how that went, who are attending, so we'll know that what they saw firsthand.
The commission? I certainly will next month, but if you'd like to join us, again, 9 a.m. on the 28th of October at CDOT headquarters. Should be an interesting discussion. And we have a representative of the legislature there going to clearly state the legislative intent, what the law says about how you guys are supposed to play nice. That's what we hope to happen. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Unless you have any questions, Rob?
Yeah, one of the other things, in the board packet, there was a list of projects. Didn't know if you wanted to comment on how STAC's working with that and how CDOT's working with it, and it ties into future legislation, I think.
I do that, sure. So this list of the yellow on it, this is a new initiative from, this is called the Development Plan. It's a 10-year program that fits between the STIP and the 2050 plan, working on that interim segment, and it moves projects that are still unfunded into a queue discussion to move into eventually a funding stream. But we expect $10.10 billion is this full list. $3.5 billion of that is called Tier 1 funding, and that's what we expect to come from if a Transbond 2 passes the legislature this year. We expect about $3.5 billion to come from that, and this is about a $3.6 billion project list in Tier 1. So
The yellow?
The yellow. Probably of note is the very top right in there is Pikes Peak and Dr. Cog working together to expand the I-25 corridor between Monument and C-470. So even though that's outside the MPO, you're actually seeing MPOs, I think, working together for funding of budget. That's good news. So there's a concern, though, that the share goes to Pikes Peak is quite small. What is it, Craig?
35.
35 million out of 3.5 billion. So 1%. Sir.
I remember when it wasn't that good.
Yeah.
Really?
So that's at least an improvement, even though we might think.
100% improvement, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our hope, the Tier 1 project list in yellow would move into the Transbond 2 bill. We have language, Transportation Bill 4 on the TLRC.
Right.
To have those projects incorporated in the language of the legislation, but the recent discussion was that has been stricken by amendment. Specific projects, I think, right?
Yeah, if I could, the Transportation Legislative Review Council, TLRC, their Bill number 4 started in their discussions this fall to have a list of projects. Some of it was from this list, others from the Senate Bill 228 list. But what TLRC did and moved toward the legislature was no projects on the list.
Yeah.
And so because the projects on the list last time were just a variety of projects, the hope is having the discussion through the STAC, the Transportation Commission, CDOT staff, the MPOs, all the acronyms, look at this list to see if statewide this is the list, and if it is, get into the legislation or referred to in the legislation, because there's no coincidence that the Tier 1 list that you have in front of you equals about $3.6 billion. And the transbond legislation, it's about $3.5 billion. So it seems to be a match. The debate is a few things, but one of which, what is the list that's current that would go to the voters, if it gets out of the legislature?
Recall last year we had a Transbond 1, which was not, the projects in there, we have no idea where they come from. It didn't come from us, from the Pikes Peak region. So this is a vast improvement this year for 2017 over 2016's bill. So. Other questions? Good to see Turner there last at the STAC meeting last week. Thanks for coming.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Learned a lot and left with more questions than I had when I got there.
Always
That's,
happens.
yeah.
Always happens.
Now
Oh,
you
yeah.
know why we need that expansion of I-25 North, right?
To get there.
I'm all for it. All for it.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we can run through the military installations report before we take a break. Colonels?
I'll go ahead and start off. A few notable things at Fort Carson since our last meeting together. The uncasing or the uncasing the flag or return home of the 4th Combat Aviation Brigade occurred in September, so it was great to welcome those soldiers and see those families and soldiers unite. So they're back in town now, and we're still training up some other deployments that will be after the Christmas holidays in the January time frame. But we're glad to have a Combat Aviation Brigade home. Of course, this was the end of the fiscal year for the federal government, so a lot of things had to be contracted and closed out our financial accounts, and that takes a lot of work by most of the units and activities on the installation. Just to give you a magnitude of what was closed out at Fort Carson and the garrison, is about $190 million that was closed out this past fiscal year. 4th Infantry Division, about $248 million. Our Evans Army Community Hospital, as far as I can tell from reports I've seen, about $150 million. And we put in place through military construction just this past year about $90 million. So thriving post, a lot going on, and now is an opportunity to drop back and do a little updating strategic plans and resetting for the next fiscal year, which a lot of units are doing that right now. One big thing that's happening, and all of the partners, the military partners working with Colorado Springs Utility and the city of Colorado Springs, is a energy resilience summit that is ongoing actually today. The mayor's speaking there, Councilman Knight speaking there, different military reps are going to be there with some folks that have come in from out of town. For the Army side, we have a representative that came in from Department of the Army for that to see if there's any partnership initiatives. And I know that National Renewable Energy Labs up in Golden has representatives down here to kind of support the effort as well. But that's ongoing, and look forward to a good report coming out of that summit meeting. That's all I have.
Sure. So USAF has had a pretty busy fall. our focus generally focuses around the stadium right now. And apologize if I'm repeating myself, but we had 3 big events happen at the end, the closing weeks of October or September. We had Tim McGraw come in town, about 23,000 of my closest friends came out to the stadium, so that was a big event. They have already announced next year's big concert, so if anyone's a Voice fan and likes country music, the guy's name's leaving me right now. Blake Shelton's coming in next year, so I feel like I'm a advertising guy when I come here.
I'm sorry.
Brad Paisley for a free concert out on Stillman Field, with about 8,000 people show up at that one. So that was an interesting evening. They've already asked to do another one of those next year during the football season. So more to come on that. And we did have every 4-star general in the Air Force on the ground for a week out at the Air Force Academy, and it went exceptionally well. The superintendent is extremely happy. The chief of staff of the Air Force and the secretary of the Air Force were extremely happy with how we pulled off that event. So that was a pretty big week 2 weeks ago, and I'm still catching up on sleep from that. Nothing big on the horizon, getting through football season and getting into the winter months, and hoping for the best with Mother Nature. So, but lots of good coordination going on in the academy. And pending your questions, that's all I have. Thank you,
sir.
Okay, good morning. John Doucette, representing Peterson Air Force Base on behalf of Colonel Chess this morning. First of all, we'd like to thank the PPACG for your support of and your participation in our State of the Wing address last week. I was unable to attend myself, but I hear it was very well attended, and it was a great event, so we wanted to thank you all for that. A few things upcoming on the horizon. So we are busy planning for the Air Force Space Command change of command ceremony on the 25th of October. So General Raymond will be taking command from General Hyten as General Hyten heads off to U.S. STRATCOM. I believe up on the display there, we are hosting an all-services retiree information day on Saturday, the 29th of October. So looking to get the word out for that and looking for a great event. It's going to be at the Peterson Club the morning of the 29th. Also, looking forward to being a part of the Veterans Day Parade on the 5th of November. We're going to have a formation out there for that. And last, Colonel Chess wanted to mention, put a plug in, we have a great museum out at the Peterson Air Force Base. I believe it's open Tuesday through Saturday, and encourage folks to check that out. It's a pretty great venue. Pending any questions, that's all I have this morning.
My only comment on the museum is I was dismayed to see the equipment that replaced the equipment that I used to use showing up.
Yes, sir. Copy, officer. I believe there is a coordination process for the public to get into the museum, and we'll get that information out to you now. You bet.
Good morning, Colonel Robin Slade from Schriever Air Force Base, and I see my mission partner there, Colonel Tracy Keeker Murphy. She's the new wing commander of the 310th Space Wing there, our reserve partners. And we just stepped through an inspection together. Last time I was here, I mentioned that we had inspectors from Air Force Base Command and also the Air Force Reserve Command IG came to the base as well. So we got some great ratings. We did very well, effective overall, and we had several pockets of folks who received outstanding ratings and were identified as professional performers by the inspectors. So it was a good way for us to kind of get a check on how we're doing and step into this new fiscal year. So a couple of the folks that did very well in the inspection were our financial management and our contracting folks. And they had a lot of things ready for that end of the year kind of shuffle around, and folks who were not ready lost their money, and folks who were ready got their money. So we were the recipient of some fallout and got some of our unfunded requirements funded. So we'll have a couple of design studies, space studies, a couple of contracts funded that we hadn't anticipated getting. So it was a great year for us. Stepping into the new year, we have our leadership and command conferences this week. We'll be at the base on Thursday and then out at Penrose on Friday just to take a look at our strategic plans, kind of refresh lessons learned from the IG as we go forward and make sure that we're doing the best job that we can in our mission areas. And then coming up on the 5th of November, we're participating in that Veterans Day Parade downtown, so we'll have a unit that's marching, and we'll also have a float out there. And that's it, unless there's any questions for me.
Trustee Smith?
Colonel Slade, did you have any request in for a Child Development Center? Did you get any funding for that?
I don't know if it specifically came down for the Child Development Center. I know that we were looking at a youth facility. We don't have anything for the older age children. We do have that Child Development Center already. We were looking at a youth facility and also at a community-type gathering area. Most of Schriever Air Force Base is within what we call the restricted area, and not everybody has access to that, and so we were looking to build a facility outside that where we could hold kind of town hall meetings, community gatherings, that kind of thing. And I think we did get some for that.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
Just one thing I want to thank Colonel Doucette and a bunch of you that I know out at PTO that helped with the activities with Hurricane Matthew. So thanks for the hard work that was concerned.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Great. With that, let's take 10. We've been at this for an hour and a half. So.
Just wanted to give you some of the They're one of the few on here that I have a copy of.
Okay, nice to meet
So
you.
even
No interest? Deborah, nice to meet you.
That and the lightning issues, safety issues for utility workers. Because I don't think I got that one to you. I know that I've got all this information to the county commissioners, the people on the Board of Health. So I'm kicking in each group as I see them at the meetings. Okay. But this is the research I did on this. This came out in CNN. This is in addition to the PFOAs. This is the chromium-6.
Okay.
Very toxic. And as things go downhill in a handbasket here in Pueblo, it is going to affect everybody.
So these are links to the sites where we have specific?
Yes, if you'd like me to send you an email with those links. But this is, this here is the site where I put this from.
Sure.
And I tried to put some of the site information on each of the pages of them, and then there's my summary of some of the information as well. Yeah.
Do we know, is it conclusive that it is cancer causing, that there's actually...
Absolutely. California, it's called the Aaron Brockovich chemical.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now you know what it is, right?
Okay.
California, decades ago. And also in Pennsylvania, so I included some of those information. Also on my friend, Wikipedia. I love it. There is chromium toxicity, in just like short one-page. So make it easy reading for everybody.
Yeah.
Because nobody has time to go all over the websites. This is my summary of what's going on and updates about the chromium. Then nobody's talking about the fact that chromium is in the wastewater along with PFOAs. It is not part of the foam. It is part of fracking wastewater. Both the PFOAs and the chromium-6. Nobody's talking about it yet. Nobody's allowed to say the F word, is my joke. Sad joke. Sad joke. Stories about the same stuff.
Where was that? Where was the original resident in Pennsylvania?
No, it was in California.
Okay.
The original
I saw the
story.
movie, but I don't know where it was.
I don't remember ever seeing the movie, to tell you the truth. I just remember hearing the stories, and I was reading about it because I'm a little bit of a science geek from back in high school. So when I had kids, we were reading about it, but never out here, right? And I've been out here on the Front Range since '76. I'm not happy to find out that all the fracking that's been going on, all the water contamination, Now they're getting ready to move Big Johnson Reservoir silt out of there and put it into the Fountain Valley School area, because it's a big area that they've got there. And that water was not tested because it was considered non-potable water source. And it slipped under the cracks. So I'm endeavoring to try and get that water, and that's tested before they transfer it over to the school. That's what I'm making on. Yes. No, not a baseline, to get the current status of it. Because supposedly back in 2013, they already scooped out all that silt.
So on coming adjusted, so you want to test before?
Before they take it out and dump it in the school grounds.
Yeah.
Because that's our water source, a major part of the alluvial field that we have all those PFOAs and the chromium in. And they said, well, we're going to drain the water out of it and put the tap into our number 1 and number 2 Fountain Valley pumps, well pumps, and put the filters in there to test the efficiency of filtering out the PFOAs. Now, if you're doing that with the water from the Big Johnson Reservoir, hello? I didn't misunderstand that sentence. I'm sure that in the citizen class, the poor man probably said more than he should have to somebody who's researching it. But the fact is, I caught that. And that's been on the denial list. And then he goes, oh, yes, we have so much of a shareholders, in this, shares in this, and we have this one route that it comes through, and I was just like so upset it wasn't funny, and so that's why I'm just giving it to everybody, and then find out they have these meetings, these monthly updates, that even our city council didn't know about. That there's one city council member that's really not happy about that one. So that's why I brought that up here. Normally, I don't talk about a whole lot. I'm still learning the procedures you have here for public comment and public input. Yes, yes. And thank you for any reading you do.
For just people on the stage who don't have time to research. No, they don't want to. They just, there's so
you guys have tons of stuff to read. So I figure if I put it together in these, and I just give it to you, read it at your leisure. If you have questions, my email, my phone number's in there usually.
Great.
And I think I've got that in my other stuff too. I think one of them's got my phone number on it as well. Yeah, there I am.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thanks for your hard work.
Thank you.
Lady in Jig walks up to me and says, can I get something? And I said, hi, my name is. Look at her, recognize her name, and goes, well, she's just as friendly as,
That's all we have, really, is the mission
I get to sleep all night because of our course.
I went to Baptist today. Right to my care, but I bring it all
but they never called me. The year before, the lottery went up to about 250, and my number was 43. And I went, 143. I'll be going pretty soon. But now that you sign up,
tell me how I'm winning.
It's not for everybody.
Probably got somebody hurt.
Report it, that's, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
So Dennis, did you go hiking with your son?
You know, we did a summer hike
That's fine. I'm just trying to make that break.
Yeah, that is something.
We fill in all the. Have you had people around these turns? Right. Infrastructure, hold the floors up. But that's why. Makes sense. I usually shower.
Okay. Guess we got nothing else to do. Those guys had an estimate.
I'm not on their list either.
I think they just wanted a Strawberry Fields vote or something.
I know.
So it's good for that. So what's the plan?
Said she was driving with that.
We're going to look at.
Now they got these screws and plates and walk on them. That's it. Wow. We lost some in the break.
Lost a few, but a few are still hanging around. So we'll step through the rest of the agenda with alacrity. Right. Executive Director's report.
All right.
Report on the dashboard.
Yeah, just going to highlight a few things in the packet. I think one of the things we're getting ready for is for our Medicare open enrollment. Our Area Agency on Aging does that every year. Last year we had about 2,000 folks come in and get a little bit of help on how to sign up or how to navigate the whole Medicare programs. That runs October 15th, which I think through December 7th. So a lot of folks in the hallways will be busy around that time with a lot of folks in our lobby. Also, I wanted to announce we do have a new employee for the direct service team lead in our Area Agency on Aging. Her name is Gretchen Bricker. She's going to start on the 24th. So you may see her pop in here now and again. Usually you see Joe, but direct service team lead helps a lot of the operations of the Area Agency on Aging. So good to have her accepted and transitioning out of her current assignment. Also, you all met Rocky Scott. Most of you know him. We had a good chance to talk transportation with him a couple of weeks ago for some of the board members that could attend. I think a good starting dialogue. We look forward to have Rocky at our meeting so we can bring your discussions on up to the commission level. A couple other things. Yesterday we hosted the statewide MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization. Craig is not here, but he's there he is, behind Jim. Oh, so you lost out on your normal seat. I don't know. So. Yeah, I know you got to get here early. But the statewide MPO meeting is the 5 MPOs, CDOT, Federal Highways, Federal Transit if they're around, and we talk about regional planning issues of statewide significance. So we do that. I think they're on quarterly cycle now, Craig. So our turn was to host, and good turnout yesterday, and some folks can call in. So it's CDOT headquarters. So it's always good to see headquarters down and talk to them. We see the Region 2 folks. They're there, but good to see headquarters folks.
Met up with Jeff Sidmeyer in Boulder yesterday after he left this.
Yeah,
meeting here.
he was late, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
We kept him
He was
overtime.
late to my meeting because he was at your meeting.
We had some things to talk about. Other thing is, in policy and communications, I've extended an offer, and she's accepted. Condolences for El Paso County folks, but Jessica is coming here. And so rotation around the region. So Jessica McMullen starts on the 24th. So she will be instrumental in working on the strategic plan as we get that going. But she'll be on here getting up to speed and reading a lot of legislation, but I don't think that's a foreign task for her. So she'll be coming over as well. And that's the highlights of the report. The only other suggestion in my report is attached the current version of the PPACG dashboard for comments, consideration, suggestions. You can email either myself or Barb Watson, who's in the back, trying to figure out what you all want to see and what best reflects how things are going on. So that was in your packet for review. It's on screen at small print. So just trying to capture a few of the parameters of the agency. And that's all I had. Pending questions.
Did you have the addition that I asked for?
Not yet. We'll
Not
have
yet.
that
Okay.
for next time.
Okay. Commissioner Clark.
Just a couple of questions, Rob, and we had this discussion before in terms of the attrition, and I know we're doing kind of a review of that, of why we've had, so many folks leave the organization. So I know we'll get more information on that here soon. But what I also wanted to ask is I had heard, and I probably should have asked this during the budget discussion, that I just want to make sure that we don't turn money back. I had heard that there were some dollars that came in potentially to the Area on Aging that were not spent and were sent back. And I don't know the specifics of that. I'd like to know a little bit more about that. But that does concern me because our seniors, which we're all going to be there pretty quick here, and I think that our senior citizens definitely need to be able to utilize those dollars. And I'd be kind of curious to know, as of the money that comes in, what decisions are made to not utilize that money, and I want to make sure that the dollars that we get are the dollars that we're able to use. So I don't know if you could address that.
Yeah, quick answer, and Casey here is there for backup. We match all our money. We're on a reimbursement, so all our grants are matched about 80%, 20%, 80% being federal or state. So if we don't use money, I think the Area Agency on Aging uses all its money. I don't think there's much we leave on the table. I mean, when a grant goes away, it goes away. It's not our normal grant. So the Colorado Health Foundation was a special startup, as Joe talked about, for the No Wrong Door. We typically leave money on the table federally for the transportation program. Craig's program, we can't match the money that we can pull down. So that's why we use in-kind, cash match. We match it with a variety of all our sources. And so we're probably a couple $100,000 we leave on the table every year. We just can't match it. And so he's had vacancies in his position years because we can't afford to hire the people and obviously not pay them. So we don't have the match, we can't pull it down. It's pretty simple. And so part of the attrition, I think as you can see, and Bethany, do you have the mouse control? If you can scroll up a little bit. Or down, I'm sorry, the other up. If you look in 2015, we hire, people come and go here, and my goal is to get them replaced. And we've done a pretty good job of doing that. In 2016 to date, we've had 8 new hires, and we've had 7 resigned and 1 terminated, so we're about even. And so some of the positions we keep open are like Craig's program. We can't match them, so we're going to leave 3 positions open, use consultants until we find the match money. AAA is, I think, about fully staffed now. And so if you look at some of these numbers, again, I asked for comments, how does this best reflect? And Andy had a good comment, so we're going to look at kind of a net attrition over time. But you can see for some of these stats, we seem to have the coming and going, and as I announce new people, other people leave, and we just try to keep the programs going, and we'll train up folks, and I think having our new salary system in place really is going to help. We used to only be able to apply or advertise half the salary range of the market. And I think that prevented us from getting some folks and keeping some folks. So again, it's not a scientific survey up there, but just what's happened over 2015, 2016, 3 quarters, and individually for a quarter as well. So for the advertised positions or the positions in the budget, which is about 38, we try to fill them all, but we can not always afford that. So we have some interns, we have some professional staff that we just can't afford.
Okay, and I guess my question was more towards direct program services, and I'd just like to get a better handle on, you know, how those dollars, specifically at Area on Aging, are allocated, and whether those require matches. If that was the issue, are there opportunities to bring that to the board to let us know so that we don't necessarily return money that could be utilized for services to folks that need it the most? So I guess that's my takeaway from that, is for us to get a better understanding, not just of how much money is spent on the budget, but what the budget does for those particular programs. Because budgets do get tight, and I understand the match issues, but I also think the board needs to be aware if there are some ways that we can help or offer, assistance in helping to decide those dollars that might otherwise, we pay the taxes regardless. We may as well use them for our local communities, and that's always been my premise on these things.
Sure. Simple question and simple answer, I think. In the budget documents in your packet, you'll see a pass-through amount. I know Joe Ruth is here from our Regional Advisory Council. They recommend to the board, and they did this year, how to spend that $2.5 million that go out from the board to local providers like Silver Key, Amblecab, and a whole list of folks. So they match the money. And so if they don't have enough match money, well, they can't draw down as much money in the contract we have with them. So most of the AAA money is pass-through. And so it goes out, provides the services, but the board recommends that based on the federal state money, the match money, the process that's run through the AAA. The Regional Advisory Council has a review committee. They recommend on up to the board. The board, you approved it. If we have rollover money from the state, you did that too. You rolled that money into other pass-through money for other direct service providers, not PPACG, but all those others. So it's in the budget, so happy to take the board through as much detail as you want. But, yeah, we pull down most of the money we get and can pass through.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're not leaving money on the table and returning it if there are ways that we can utilize it, and to keep the board apprised of that. And then there was something else, and I think it's just gone. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention, too, is there's been, a question about what we have in terms of legal counsel, and I think it's just important that we know, what our attorneys, who's on our, whether that's retainer or on call for us during board meetings, and so I'd like to think about that as we look to approving the 2017 budget as well.
Sure. Mountain States provides the service, and it's part of our fee to Mountain States.
And I guess I was thinking more from a contract standpoint, not necessarily just personnel issues, but contracts and other legal advice that we might need on other issues.
Sure. We typically use Mountain States. They've done a great job.
Rob, question.
Yeah.
The staff vacancies, we've got 9 of 38 vacant. What doesn't get done? Do people work longer, overtime, or?
It depends on the program. I think if you, Bethany, could you scroll down to, scroll up, sorry. So the list at the end of the third quarter is a little deceiving because I filled 2 positions that are on the list. So the first one, Direct Services Team Lead, that's filled. So that was unfilled for a month, maybe 6 weeks. So in that case, the other case managers pick up the workload. So if we have 5 total and we're down 1, others will lend a hand and take over the case management. For the accountant position, it's a position we haven't filled. It's not in the next year's budget. So we added an accountant because we had a need for a year, but now we don't need that, so we're not having that. So
you split RTA and PPACG?
In one part, but also we had another accountant, and we hired 2 part-time accountants to pick up the workload. We had a staff member that needed more time off, so to accommodate that and not overwork the folks that are left, we added 2 part-time positions. And so now we don't need the extra accountant position that we needed. We had probably a little over a year for that. Policy communication, that's been filled. Website and publications, we're interviewing for that. So, yeah, when a manager's not here, I pick up the workload. So as Rachel stepped down, until I hired someone, I help with the Community Advisory Committee. So I know most of the functions, so I can step in. So there's my motivation to get folks hired. For the website and policy, we have a contractor that helps with a little bit. So we just upped the hours on that contract. And so they could work a little bit longer. But we should have that filled probably within 2-3 weeks. Mobility manager is a position that's eliminated, as we heard earlier. That function is more going to Mountain Metro Transit. We're going to cover the mobility coordinating committee. So it looks like it's an open position, but it's not in next year's budget. Running down the list, I talked about the transportation planner positions. Long-term vacancies of 4 positions. We just can't pull it down. So we used to have 2 GIS, we only got 1. And so extra workload is by the planners that are in the room or upstairs working on things now. And then finally, GIS planner, we had one, we put them over to joint land use. So that was a transfer, and so that was a new position that's been on for about 8 months.
Is that a 1-for-1 match to fill those positions? Lack of grant match.
Yeah, the grant matches for Office of Economic Adjustment, it's about 90% federal, 10% local. And we like to use state money for that, and I don't think we use any local money for that except in kind. People that show up to meetings, we capture the value of that. And so different grants have different in kind, indirect rate. I think I've mentioned to the board, the state changed the way it does the calculation for the indirect charges or the overhead. It's negotiated with every grant now. So if we're down some finance staff, that could be a problem. But Casey and her team have been doing a great job negotiating with every contract and every grant. But the answer to the question is, yeah, we pick up the workload. But again, as you look at that, some have gone away, so I don't think our vacancies, in the fourth quarter, we won't have 9 vacancies. I think you'll see those long-term ones. And as we flip into the first quarter of next year, positions that didn't carry over into the budget, we may have only those long-term transportation folks. So Craig and his team do the work because we can't afford to pull down all that federal money. But he has some consultants that help out too.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Skip to H.
Sure. Okay, any other questions on the director's report first? Okay, let's go ahead and skip down to H, Mobility Coordinating Committee.
Gail just hung on.
Whoa,
One of our
you
AAA
threw me there.
contractors.
Thank you. No, yeah. Yes, good morning. Thank you, Gail Nels, representing the Mobility Coordinating Committee. So we had a very interesting conversation last Mobility Coordinating Committee meeting in that we had just come back from the statewide conference, and I'd like to point out that we had several awardees at that event, and one, of course, was the Teller Senior Coalition, and one was Mountain Metro Transit. So we were recognized for excellence in that at the state level. So that's exciting. Another thing, though, that we brought back was the framework from action that was developed by the Federal Transit Administration to start looking at how to better define, if we are coordinating transportation and transit, sub-communities. And I think we will be launching into that as a way to structure our conversations better and to be more thoughtful, but also deliberative when we talk to the state about what we're doing here locally. And then also at a request from Commissioner Steam over here, we also brought back to the MCC some discussions from CDOT about the 5311 federal funding and making sure that the process was going to be transparent and fair, as it looked like CDOT was going to move to more of a formula-based funding around the state on those kinds of dollars on the rural communities. And as a request of the committee, we're going to have further discussions about not only the 5311, the rural, but also the 5310 elderly, blind, and disabled funding. And say they will be coming to our next meeting the end of this month. I'll be out of town, but I think Fred Hare with Yellow Cab will be chairing that meeting. So we all can be better informed about what that looks like, and to address the concern of some of our local representatives here, I do believe that CDOT is now in more of a listening mode, and I think some of the changes with the STAC and the TEC and the Commission all working together, I'm sensing a greater sense of seamlessness about advising and making sure that the needs are met of the community. Any questions? I know that you're...
Trustee Smith?
When you talk about rural areas, what rural are you talking about? Being as I am from Rama, metropolis of 123 and 40 miles east of here.
Let me assure you, you are rural. And so, I think...
Yeah.
So as I understand it, there's these different categories. So there's like the large urban, of course, Colorado Springs, and then there's a small urban, and then there's rural. In places like Cripple Creek, and if you want, next time we can show some slides that CDOT had developed a very nice one of the state, and where some of, they did the size of circles of where those 53 funds were going around the state. But it really takes the coordination of members of your community and speaking into, and I would like to recommend, into this MCC meeting about your needs and what you'd like to see for your community, because that is our responsibilities, I believe, to the board. You're rural. Anything else? Any other questions?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh.
Yeah, one comment. El Pomar Foundation announced that they would have grants available for purchase of motor vehicles.
Really?
So, yes, for transit needs, so you might check with the El Pomar Foundation here in Colorado Springs to see how you might do that.
That's remarkable. I think that that's been a change then. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who influenced that, but thank you.
Mr. Hibble announced that at the last statewide convention last weekend.
Great news. Thank you.
Welcome.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, going back up, Transportation Advisory Committee. Jennifer?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Board. I'll be brief because we've already kind of talked about two of the items. The designation of critical urban freight corridors and the TIP amendment you already voted on, and I already came up here to discuss those items. We did have a second discussion, two discussion items at our meeting. The first one being in regards to the 2019 to 2024 TIP, and this is kind of a continuation of a discussion that we had in our previous month's meeting in regards to looking at some of the policies that were in the previous TIPs and identifying if there's any suggested changes to make. Specifically, we talked about the kind of projects in the TIP, discussed a separate pot of funding for small projects or maybe even safety projects, and we also discussed the note policy. I anticipate that we'll be having those on our agenda item and on our agenda for further discussion and possibly even action this next month. Also, we talked about the long-range transportation schedule, which you will receive a briefing on later today from staff. But we did discuss that item, and a couple items that we discussed were from Mountain Metro Transit. Brian Vituli mentioned that they'll also be doing an update of their plan. We discussed some of the traffic modeling software that PPACG is looking to use, and we asked them to come forward and kind of discuss that with us further and maybe show us some of that. We also saw that the schedule is very lengthy, and what we saw was hard to read, so we talked to staff about maybe providing us with something that's a little bit more readable. And then also discuss some coordination with concurrent county and city and other municipality and member government planning efforts. There's a lot going on, and we discussed making sure that that occurred. So other than that, we did discuss again the CDOT priority list, which you discussed again today, and our next meeting is scheduled for October 20th. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Any questions? Seeing none, great, thanks.
Thank you.
Community Advisory Committee.
Good morning, Jen Nellinger from the Community Advisory Committee. Just a couple of things. There are really no substantive changes that you all have in the minutes. There was considerable interest and discussion about getting regular updates from the JLUs because we have a lot of people in the community that reference some of those items, and they want to report back to their constituents. They also thought there was a lot of interest, and we appreciated Brian visiting our committee early about the transit hub, because we have people on our committee that are very involved with the disabled access as well as changes in access and how that impacts them. There was interest in the strategic plan, and I think that would help members to be able to relate some of the priorities and the scope and direction of PPACG, for their members. And then there was a question about just understanding how the staff turnover happens, and we talked to Rob about that. So, do you have any questions?
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. And Regional Advisory Council?
Good morning. I'm Joanne Ruth from the Area Agency on Aging Advisory Council, and I'm delighted to see all of you this morning. I have only one thing to add to the minutes. Just a point of information for you. The Bell Policy Center presentation, they are a group that works with research and advocacy for aging families, persons, and in our communities. And they have she presented a very valuable program with the statistics and data concerning aging in our communities and the impact on our families as we are caregiving. So, and that means that all of you have people, every one of your people in any of your agencies, any of your councils are involved with this project. So if you'd like to have personal information about this data, you can go onto their website, the Bell Policy website, or you may call Joe here or Carrie Schillinger here in our office, and we will be glad to send you a copy of her website, her communications and those various informations that she brought to us. So I would just urge you to put that as a little star so that you have that kind of information available to you. If there's no other questions, I thank you for your opportunity to speak with you.
Thanks for having your meetings around the area.
Oh.
I can see so many Park County residents, citizens.
Wasn't that such fun?
Yes.
Oh my goodness! We had the little Shawnee Community Center was just filled. That's the VFW building there, and they had their board meeting earlier in the morning. And behind me was this whole row of people that I'm beginning to know many of their faces and their names, and it was delightful. And I might say that the trees were magnificent. Thank you.
It was awesome reading the directions on how to get there. That was...
Well, yeah, I had never been to Shawnee before.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful, and the meeting was really a pleasure to attend.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. Thanks.
Oh, we find it very valuable, even though it's sometimes difficult for us because we get so egocentric in our place of home. It's nice to extend ourselves.
Remember who we serve.
That's right. Thank you all.
Thank you. FCURE. Do we have it? Oh, there we go. He was behind the column.
Quite a hike.
Good morning. I'm Peter Galeski, Environmental Program Manager with PPACG. PPACG works with, we host AFCURE for their meetings. AFCURE stands for Arkansas and Fountain Coalition for Urban River Evaluation. So this is an update since we haven't given to the board and visitors an AFCURE update for some months. And this will be brief. I know we're at the end. A little bit of history. AFCURE was formed formally in 2012, and it's comprised of the water and wastewater treatment districts in our region, essentially all, if not all of them, nearly all of them, certainly the major ones. And They exist to assist the member entities in compliance with present and upcoming state and federal regulations. So what we're doing these days, and we meet regularly once a month, it's a very active group, we are tracking state CDPHE regulatory development. So we have a consultant, Brown and Caldwell, that does most of that legwork, and they send staff every month to attend meetings, and they then arrange conference calls for the member entities to get briefed on these and to get updated. The AFCURE members have been collecting water quality data at all of their facilities for now since about 2012, 2013, and basically they'll take a water sample above their outfall, from their outfall, the water that they're discharging, and below their outfall, and they sample for a wide variety of parameters, not merely the ones that they're presently required to meet permit requirements, but we are looking ahead to what's coming down the road. So we are monitoring for various nutrients, principally nitrogen and phosphorus. We're monitoring for temperature because there's a drumbeat that coming down the road. There could be standards, stream standards for temperature. We could talk about that for an hour, but I won't. We've also been monitoring for the indicator bacteria E. coli, and PPACG is presently, as you probably know, leading a project on that. We are developing a watershed management plan which focuses on E. coli as an indicator of bacterial contamination from warm-blooded creatures. Warm-blooded creatures include people, it includes mammals, it includes birds. Recent developments in that, in collaborating with other members of AFCURE, they are bringing to the plate, as we speak, this is being finalized, additional funds to augment the contract that we have with CDPHE. We're not going to change the contract or commit to anything different than we're doing. But AFCURE is going to bring funds to help us address some of the tasks more fully than we're required to or than we otherwise would. And that's for the benefit, it's fine that it's for the benefit of CDPHE, but it's primarily for the benefit of AFCURE members because we're basically getting ready for regulations that are coming down the pike. And for me, that's a good thing because my personal forte is in data analysis and math and that sort of thing. That frees me up to devote more of PPACG's efforts on that most critical element of the project, and some of the other elements I can rely upon, not entirely but largely from AFCURE members. And we've also got an extension, since we're bringing more money, more resources to the table, we've got another year to complete this work, and this CDPHE is delighted with that. They think it's great. Just a little more, we are undertaking periphyton sampling of Fountain and Monument Creeks. Periphyton is basically attached green algae, green scum. That's important because that has interactions with the nutrients in the stream, and to understand how nutrients are behaving in the stream, where they go, are they being attenuated, or are they being added to, we have to have some basis for understanding how algae behaves, how much there is and what it's doing. And at the same time that we're about to embark upon that, we're also going to do another survey of critters that crawl and swim in the stream. This is all leading to a project that Brown and Caldwell have proposed for AFCURE members, I'm near the end here, to do a modeling project. So we're going to take we are going to take all of this information and put it and develop a model so that we can understand it better than we presently do. And that's going to prepare us so that help us to optimize our wastewater treatment processes, and also it will give us substantial credibility with the state that when it comes time to sit down at the table and start negotiating with them over new, revised, more stringent stream water quality samples, they'll know that they're dealing with people who know what they're doing. So, be happy to answer any questions. Turner.
Okay, you mentioned E. coli and the fact that they can be bit that can be carried by birds.
Yes.
A lot of these plants are open,
Yes.
birds fly over them.
Yes.
E. coli is going to be present in that water,
Yes.
so what's the outcome of that going to be?
I'll let you know. The short answer is that's that's an intractable problem. Wildlife can't solve the problem with wildlife. Very difficult. Not impossible, but difficult. So as part of this study, I'm going to do the best I can with many data sources to try to resolve, insofar as the data will permit me to do that, where we think the E. coli is coming from. We know it's not coming from the wastewater treatment plants because they treat wastewater. It comes out, the cleanest water in the stream is from the wastewater treatment plants. Okay? So it's from other sources. It's from diffuse sources, stormwater, it's from birds, homeless, vagrant populations. Dog park. My bias, my personal bias, it's just that. I should say, as I analyze this data, I don't have a bias. I look at it as it is. But I suspect that birds are contributing a great deal. Upper Monument Creek, beavers, okay? And then down here, along where we have homeless camps, that population. I just think, we'll see. We'll see. So, good question. Other?
Any other questions? Thank you. Oh.
What about the temperature variance?
Specifically?
They're looking at the temperature variance here.
Yes.
Okay, do they have a base?
That's in progress. They, being the state, is developing a base, and we're watching that like a hawk. Because if we have to worry about affecting the temperature of the stream, that's a whole new thing.
Yeah, that's very problematic because
Yes.
yeah, kind of natural variation is going to be a problem trying to screen out of that.
Smart people are on this, though, I can assure you.
Yeah. Some smart people. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Information items, proposed schedule and methodology for 2015 moving forward.
Stop it.
How quickly can you step through this?
I've got a 22-page presentation. I'm going to do 2 pages of it. It's a 3-year schedule. We are underway. The public participation plan is out for comments right now. You heard how many comments we got today. That is the sum total of comments we've received. It will be adopted before the end of this year. We hope in January to take out the goals and performance measures, which starts a cascade effect of analysis, baseline, and needs identification across the spectrum. 2018 is going to be all about the projects. We'll do a call, we'll score and analyze those projects. 2019, then we will figure out how to put those projects together into a portfolio that best serves the region. We are going to continue with scenarios, so you're not going to be getting just one score. There's going to be a set of scores. If this happens, then these are the best projects. If that happens, these are the best projects. So we'll do that. The process we're using, we're following Federal Highways PlanWorks methodology. And this is the slide that actually had the TAC. It is eyewash. It's impossible to read, although I slightly better contrast between the background and the words now. On your PDF, these are clickable. You can click this and go to the Federal Highway website that describes each of the steps. LRP is long-range plan steps. Because of the way we work with CDOT, we in Colorado and CDOT work, some of the steps that we do are actually programming, like revenue forecast. You'll see it's long-range plan step 5, which is also programming step 1, which is identifying the money. It's because the way we do revenues in Colorado is more like what Federal Highway says is programming. Also, we're going to be doing some corridors. We have to do a congestion management plan, and that's corridor studies. So you'll see the corridor steps are laid out there. Those are selectable in your PDF. All told, we are aiming for adoption in November of 2019. So it's a just under 3-year total process. The big 2017, as I said, is goals and needs. 2018 is projects, and 2019 is portfolio. The final portfolios for adoption. Are there any questions?
Whoosh, whoosh.
LRP and
Long-range plan.
And COR?
Corridors. So,
Yeah, I think as the board did last time, you're going to get bite-sized pieces of this particular elephant.
Yeah.
I think there was 10 or 12 specific board approval items, whether it's resource allocation, projects, all those things. So
and at the
stay tuned.
Yeah, statewide MPO, we have actually started the discussion on resource allocation because the old model doesn't work. Gas tax isn't working. CDOT's looking at the road user charge, so figuring out how to forecast road user charge on a statewide level. And so it's going to be, in the past, it's been a 3-month process. We're laying out 10 months for that process at the state level. So, as I said, a lot of this is building the airplane in flight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Building the airplane, I remember that. Item B, establishing a nominating committee for PPACG officers. It is that time of year to start thinking about that. Do you have someone to present this, or?
It's me.
It's you, okay.
And you.
And me.
Yeah. You name the nominating committee eventually.
Eventually, yeah, but right now we're soliciting volunteers for the nominating committee.
Right. I think it's it's a reminder for board members. It was in the packet, so the board members that aren't here anymore can start thinking about if they'd like to be considered for a board officer. I typically send an email out with the response by the end of the month for those who are willing to participate in that process, or conversely, be part of the nominating committee. So I will do that, and this is just a reminder of how long the current officers have been in place, and the board tradition of serving for 2 years. And we do have a few that are may be coming off. Only one that I know of.
I'll come on a board position next year.
The nominating committee, maybe. So this is just information. Get your campaign speeches ready.
Mr. Heisey, we're having so much fun.
When's the going away party? All these years?
You know, I think they're just going to show up to make sure I'm gone.
Yes.
Nice.
How long have you been here at PPACG?
It'll be 12 in January.
12 in January, yeah.
You got roped in early somehow,
Yeah.
along with a PPRTA, I think.
Right. Both of them fun boards because you do things. You do things.
So that's the updates information item.
Probably need to send out a email asking people to kick in, since we've missed most people here, but reminding them to put, if they would like to be on the nominating committee,
Right.
step number 1, we need a nominating committee.
Yes, so they have three choices from the email. Nominating committee, be a candidate, or no thank you. So that's in the memo. That'll also be in the email. It's ready to go. It'll probably go out tomorrow.
Okay. Annual evaluation of the executive director.
Barb has hung on a long time.
Barb?
Barb Watson, Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments Office Resources Manager. In your board packet is the annual evaluation for Rob. After this meeting, I will also be sending out the electronic instrument as a link to all board members, and I request that you return them to me by November 1st so that I can compile the results to be presented at the November board meeting.
Okay.
Any questions?
How does this relate to the 360?
The 360, today is the deadline for the 360-degree evaluation, and I will send that out also as a reminder. So that is a separate instrument, and that is being done by Mountain States. The results of that will be available at the November board meeting.
So two assessments, this one and...
For board members, yes. Yes.
Also, my report on achieving my goals, all 25. So you get that report as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And PPACG draft strategic plan scope of services.
That's fine. In the packet, as I said earlier, looking for comments, add to, delete, scope, topics to be covered. As I said earlier, we'll send the RFP out to consultants to bid on it. And so get that in so they're ready to go for January 1st. So I can take email comments now, later. So we always have a chance to redo the scope. Under our procurement guidelines, we'll issue it. I think it's going to go over 25,000 by the time we're all said and done, but if not, we can direct select. But I think the board wants to be part of the scoping, so that's what I'm asking.
Okay.
Rob, one of the things we talked about at the work session was that CRC, Community Resource Center workshop for people who are writing strategic plans, us, the uninformed.
Right.
Or what it kind of looks like. Is there any?
Yeah, I want to see if I can get maybe a workshop for the board. So we have a workshop the Friday before this board meeting. So maybe schedule 2 hours, someone come down and do a 101 for strategic planning for elected officials, for board members, for whatever they want to classify this as. So I'll work toward that for November, but it could be December as well. Yep.
Okay. And Volkswagen and Audi settlement.
This one,
Intriguing.
Chris is not here. Just in your packet, just their announcement from Colorado Department of Public Health and the Environment. They have a public meeting coming up Monday, November 7th, for those who want to participate, understand more of what the state's going to do and how to allocate that $61 million.
Advocating $61 million for El Paso County probably isn't going to,
Unknown how it's going to
unknown how that would work.
trickle down to counties.
Yeah, very, very
Yeah,
narrow.
We're starting to see that in the guidance. But Pete will be looking at it from our air quality and Craig from transportation. But I know CDOT's looking at it. I know other folks are looking at it. So November 7th is the chance for input.
Yeah, my comment is that all of the member governments probably need to be putting some word out to various and sundry agencies that would fall under, different projects that would fall under this. So take a look at that criteria and get the word out so that.
Yep. You can forward the emails however you like.
As stated earlier, we don't want to leave this money on the table.
Just so you know, there's some kind of water cooler talk, is that
Water.
funds should be distributed to non-attainment areas. We're not one.
Yeah.
So there's some discussion that we would see zero here, and that would actually, funds that would only go to El Paso would be distributed up to Weld or someplace non-attainment.
Denver and north.
Discussion is still on the table. Just be aware.
But I keep hearing from all the,
Say that again, please.
we're in attainment.
Yeah, we're.
Yeah.
So this is a settlement by Volkswagen Audi to people who, so anyway, the discussion is to not allocate it to counties that are in non-attainment areas, which we are, excuse me, in attainment areas. We have attained the emissions air quality. So some discussion is that the funds ought to go to counties that are in non-attainment. Those that do not have good air quality, we're doing too well to qualify for these funds. And
Exactly.
I'm just telling you, discussions are on the table. It has not been concluded, I think, by CDPAG, who has the lead in this. So that will likely be discussed on the November 7th meeting. If you have an opinion, suggest it to attend.
That's our reward for doing wonderfully.
I cannot.
Yeah. I think one of the first the first ideas that were put out there was to do it on a basis of how many of those, the subject vehicles are registered in your county.
$6,500 per vehicle is the current allocation. That's how you got the allocation by city and county.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that particularly. That's disquieting.
That came up yesterday in the Freight Advisory Committee.
And I'm sure that Weld had never thought of that. It
Oh,
took
no.
them by surprise.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's shocking.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
Dr. Cog is also advocating for that as well.
naturally,
Of course.
of course.
There are, what, 1,400 and some vehicles in El Paso County?
Yep, something like that, yeah.
1,490 or 1,460 or whatever it is?
Yeah, if it's done by vehicle registration,
This number in any county in Colorado?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's going to shut us out.
well,
I'm not concluding, I'm
Rumor.
just telling you that discussions may be had as to how it ought to be allocated. And if you could say that The reason we're good is because we have done good work. And if you move those funds away, then you're going to put us back in jeopardy of non-attainment.
Do our representatives in the state legislature know this?
I don't know.
Maybe they ought to.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know the answer. It's a good question.
I think the state agency is determining how to spend it.
Well, I think, yeah. I mean, if the water cooler talk has got any legs to it, we probably need to alert our, I mean, that is the first time I heard about it. It came up yesterday. We ought to be getting our state legislatures aware,
It's not
because
officially briefed as a
that's
position,
just not.
but it's as a course of action, but I've heard that thrown out there in the conversation.
I do think it's a question of equity.
Yeah.
Whose ox gets gored? Or does everybody's ox get gored? And I don't know how that gets raised, but our elected officials ought to be watching our interests.
Yeah, I'd be glad to follow up with President Carver and who else would be.
I hate to be blunt.
No, that's a straight out of Deuteronomy.
Yeah.
Goring the ox.
There you go.
Okay, let's,
One more question.
Yeah.
Who is our air quality control officer for the PPACG?
Air quality control officer. So we have a representative. Chris is usually here.
yeah, state rep comes down and joins us. I don't think we have a staff person for air quality, right?
I thought, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not our employee. He's a state employee.
Yeah, he's a state employee. Pete does air quality for us.
Does that kind of person get notified of the area leadership's concern? And if he does, how does he do it, or does somebody else need to do it? I mean, that's ridiculous.
He sent us the information, so.
It's like you're being punished for doing good deeds.
Well, that's, yeah.
It makes me angry a little bit. I'm sorry to show that.
No, me too.
Ms. Smith?
CSU made a pretty important decision based on attaining the air quality control, which was to shut down one of their plants. Am I incorrect?
Well, we shut down one unit for economic reasons.
Okay.
But we have, for air quality purposes, retrofitted the plants with the stuff which actually puts us in attainment and maintains it. So, yeah, we're being punished for making the investment. So, yeah, we'll,
Something we're going to do something about by cleaning it up.
yeah,
I call it the scrubbers or something, but anyway.
Yeah, the scrubbers, right.
So, this is a.
yeah, it's just, yeah, no, this is, if particular water cooler talk actually has legs, that would be very disquieting, and,
Try to defend the.
yeah, we need to start
in case
thinking
it
about
comes,
that.
need to be ready.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know that this is the case. This is just one of those things that's coming down, but I think being forewarned is, we need to kind of start probably, I mean, that's a chunk of money. That. Okay, I want to wrap this one up here. We are running late. Any other last comments? Okay, meeting schedule, I think you have that. Any other last comments, concerns? Going, gone, no reattacks. We are adjourned. Yeah, yeah.
Bethany will come find you, maybe, if you come sign it.
And she knows where to find me, too.
Yeah.
5 minutes?
I have to go swap out my packets in the car.
Me too.
So do I owe you any emails, or did we get cut out?
No, we're all good.
Okay.
We're gonna cut checks. What's today?
Yeah, we do a lunch.
Oh, you do a lunch?